Better podcast with Ian L. Gordon, your number one source online for business motivation.
This show will teach you how to build strategic relationships, supercharge your business, and make it recession-proof. Have you ever felt discouraged because no matter what you do, you're unable to get your business off the ground? Well, listen up, as you're about to hear something that will pick you up and propel you to success.
Now, here is that man who believes that together we do better. Your host, Ian L. Gordon.
Welcome to this episode of the Together We Do Better podcast. My name is Ian L. Gordon, and this is the podcast dedicated to helping you supercharge and recession-proof your business or startup as we share the message that together we do better. Together We Do Better is now available on Zune Radio, iTunes, and Stitcher Radio. Please rate and review. This episode is brought to you by FreeAudioBookClub.com. Pick one of your favorite books from over 150,000 titles like Rich Dad, Poor Dad, The 4-Hour Workweek, Think and Grow Rich, and much more. FreeAudioBookClub.com. Visit it today. All right, listeners, you know what time it is. It's time for the random shout out. Today's random shout out goes out to Dr. Cheryl Hill of Integrity International Consulting Group. Integrity International is a management consulting company providing high-quality strategic solutions to government, private, and public sector clients. Integrity performs management consulting services for their clients at excellent value, focusing on strategic services, customer service, on-time delivery, and adherence to the highest ethical standards. Visit Dr. Cheryl Hill on Facebook. Ladies and gentlemen, it's my privilege to introduce to you today our special guest. My special guest is Michael H. Ballard, and he is the president and CEO of Resiliency for Life. Michael specializes in building resiliency by helping groups and people of all ages learn how to deal with change and adversity in the fast pace of modern life through his Resiliency for Life program. Michael, thanks for coming on the show.
It is an honor to be here, and thanks for having me, Ian.
Michael, I also want people to know that you yourself are a great interviewer because you have a TV show.
Yes, I got my own channel. I like to introduce people, I like to introduce people to people who have been through what I call big stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And big stuff can be anything you can imagine. Business failure, divorce. I myself, as your listeners might know, have had 3 brushes with death due to cancer and complications. And so I see myself as a tour guide.
Mm-hmm.
And whether it's in business or personal or for when I've done some government projects or some healthcare projects or education, it's introducing people to the process, the skills, and the terminology and making them more at ease.
Right.
And that's what I see what you're doing is helping people understand how to be a better entrepreneur.
And Michael, you know, there's a huge personal story that you have behind Resiliency for Life. Why don't you go back for us and give us a brief history of how Resiliency for Life came to be?
Absolutely. Well, to go to the very early times, at 6 years old, riding a bicycle, I flew through the air after a little 4-year-old ran out in front of me. I did the honorable thing, and I managed to steer around them and not hurt them or hit them. But it seems that my head hit the only rock in the ditch. New subdivision. It was, a long time ago. No drains back then. It was ditches. And I got myself a world-class headache and ended up at a children's hospital for 3 days. But the thing that I learned there was another young boy with a concussion was acting completely opposite. With a major headache, I wanted no lights on. I wanted no sounds, no movement, and a glass of water, please.
Mm-hmm.
And, of course, what I learned, at the time was I knew they weren't being mean, but no, we need the lights on. We need to check the pupils in your eyes every 30 minutes for the first 12 hours and every hour for the next 24 hours because they were checking for concussion and brain swelling.
Right.
And, of course, luckily, I had what they then used to call semi-concussion, so I faded in and out of consciousness and exhaustion from not being able to sleep for 36 hours. because I kept having these little naps. But it really amazed me that my roommate didn't want quiet and no light. He became agitated and screamed and shouted for 36 hours, which made it tough for me to sleep anyways.
Yeah.
So I became a student of human behavior at a very early age because I was just astounded that he wasn't better or worse than me, but radically different. That how could we have the same experience and respond so differently? And so along the way, I had a chronic illness at 17, and the doctor with good intentions said there was nothing I could do. But I don't know about you, Ian, but in my family, you're not allowed to say there's nothing you can do. You can pray on it. You can see if there's anybody older or younger that knows that's had this experience and what have they done to cope.
Right.
How do they get back on the horse and ride again, to use that analogy. And so he was a wonderful medical health expert, but my nickname in the corporate world a few years after that was the Hound Dog because I like to research things.
Mm-hmm.
You can tell me in the middle of the night the sky is black, but if I can see there's a hint of a moon somewhere, I'm not going to say you're lying to me, but I'm going to find out where that light's coming from. I'm going to do some research. So I found that the Harvard Medical Mind-Body Clinic at the University of Harvard had some amazing things for people with chronic health to do to help us manage. So I started to do that. And along the way, don't you know, by 27, I had a bout of cancer. And worst news was it spread. And that's when I found out that my mindset from the concussion and the chronic illness really paid dividends because the doctors at the hospital said I was the happiest majorly sick guy they'd ever met. Bad grammar, I know, but that's how one of them used to tease me with bad grammar because he said, I know you like to play with words. And as you've already acknowledged, you could be dead in 6 days, 6 weeks, or 6 months. So if you're going to go out, you're going to go out fighting with a grin. And so within a couple of years, I was cured after a lot of treatments.
Mm-hmm.
And I got on with life, but because I'd been so sick and the cancer had spread to 4 locations, they kept an eye on me. And somewhere in the 5th, 6th year, they went, uh-oh, Houston, we have a problem. And so it had come back. So I had to rushed in for what I called another tune-up.
Yeah.
And so I had another tune-up, and unfortunately, after the big surgery to get rid of all the cancer, one of the little final surgeries to put me all back together again failed. So I had a catastrophic failure and had to get rushed in to emerge. And at 20-odd minutes to midnight one night, I found myself on the OR table, and they were going to undo my surgery and redo me to save my life.
Wow.
And one of the things I learned that even though I was scared out of my wits, because I was blessed to be raised in a family with faith, I stopped and said, it's like this. I'm going under the anesthetic soon, and you're going to get in there and root around. Now, you know, I'm hoping you're going to find a prize, maybe a Rolex, somebody's platinum Visa card. I want a prize out of this other than good health. Then I got the doctors to laugh because I was scared out of my mind that the doctors were crying.
Yeah.
Knowing me off and on for 7 years.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, at midnight, you don't have the AAA world famous team. You have the B+ team. They've all graduated, but they haven't got thousands of hours of experience. They got hundreds of hours.
Right.
Thought if I could loosen them up a little bit, maybe they stop crying and they could, you know, do a better job if they didn't have tears in their eyes. So despite my issues, it got better. And a couple of days later when I came to, I found out that I was back together again. I felt like I'd been kicked by a horse, but, you know, by having that sense of faith that there was more and that together we could, it was amazing. I healed up and I went from back then one of 2 failed surgeries for that particular type of surgery based on my particular type of cancer and issues to now I've gone, and out of the couple of thousand they've now done, I'm in the top 2% of recovery for functioning physically. And I've been a guinea pig for them emotionally and psychologically because I think it's important to give back. And they tell me I'm in the top 5% for that. And they keep saying, you're really happy. Why is that?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I made a choice. I have faith on my side, but I've surrounded myself with people who will give me a reality check if I become negative or nasty.
Right.
Hopefully never nasty. We're all allowed to be a little negative. Heaven forbid we're human. We're not perfect. But I strive to have a life of excellence, and being resilient helps me live that.
Mm-hmm.
So that's sort of my backstory. But that's the health, mental part. But one of the things for the show is about being an entrepreneur. And, well, I've been an entrepreneur since I was 6.
Is it one of those lemonade stands? Did you sell cookies? What did you do?
I sold chocolate for my school fundraisers.
All right.
I'm a pretty fast out of the gate guy. So at the afternoon recess, I would get my coat. If it was the right time of year, my winter boots or my galoshes or my going home shoes, everything lined up. And on my way out of the door, sign for my chocolates. And I always got an extra box. Who needs one when you can sell 3?
Of course.
And I would start knocking on doors all the way home. I live pretty close to home, but sometimes I'd knocked on 12 doors on the way home from school.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd sold 6 boxes.
Pretty good.
And I, of course, had the drop on all my friends.
Yeah.
On a couple of occasions, I wasn't trying to pull one over. I sold chocolate to kids to the parents of the kids in my own class.
Mm-hmm.
So, with hindsight as an adult, I'm a little embarrassed, but as a kid in grade 3, I was just selling chocolates, okay?
Well, you want to talk about resiliency. It seems to be a bit of a buzzword nowadays. You are the first person that I've heard bring a lot of emphasis to the concept of resiliency. How do you help entrepreneurs be resilient?
Well, to go back, I define resiliency is defined as our ability to bounce back.
Mm-hmm.
That's a real big definition, and I think it's very important because rejection as an entrepreneur is something that happens to us often. Some rejection's polite, some rejection is polite but painful, and some rejection is done in a nasty, nasty way. And it's up to us not to receive it as nasty, but just realize that's where they're coming from.
Mm-hmm.
So along the way, I had a nasty rejection that was so bad, I caught myself in front of $1 million client standing up and making fists. So he said, "Are you okay?" And I lied and said, "Yes, just a back spasm." In my head, I had him by the neck. I'd thrown him out the window and I was going to dance on his head. Not an appropriate visualization with $1 million client. But he was a small-minded, petty little man who later went bankrupt. I feel sorry for him and his staff, but he was nasty and vulgar about my wife who he'd never met. So I'm lucky I did nothing wrong because I'd have been sent to prison for what I visualized.
Mm-hmm.
On the other hand, he's lucky I don't follow through on my visualizations because he was nasty and vulgar. So I define resiliency a little different than just bouncing back. I define resiliency as increasing the quality of our experience and often changing the outcomes.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not about bouncing back. That's just a little too primitive and wide for me. I've had friends that have had near-death experiences and have come back to go to work in a different capacity because of a change in physicality.
Yeah.
So, they're not going to be number 2 or number 1 out of 800 salespeople anymore, but they're now in sales support. They're still making a good living,
mm-hmm.
and they're happy doing what they love and what they're good at. But they can't drive a car because they've had a stroke and one part of their body doesn't work anymore. But their brain and spirit is still large. So that's my idea of being resilient.
Yeah, definitely, because they still bounce back. They could have, right? Because they could have chosen to stay at home and mope.
Yep, they could have gone on disability, which is not, I can't judge that because that's their walk, not mine.
Right.
That's them doing their best, that's them. So for me, being an entrepreneur and being resilient is about looking for the best way, the safest way, the fastest way, the best return on investment way, and then making moral choices. So being an entrepreneur and being resilient, it's about tenacity. It's about a belief system. It's about a personal culture I take with me everywhere.
Right.
And so I have been able to help a client who for 7 years and 5 really first-class salespeople, they couldn't get any business with some majors. And when we looked at what they had done, they were very nice people, but they had never worked with clients that were bigger than 3 or 4 locations. Well, you don't sell to a Loblaw or a Walmart the same as you do a 2-store, 5-store chain.
Right, right.
And so I come from, when I'm in sales consulting mode, I come from a culture of I don't know much about your business, but I think I have something here that could save you money, or make your clients happy that you sell something this wonderful.
Mm-hmm.
And, I got them into Loblaw, A&P, Sobeys, Dominions, and we did it all in 9 months. And each one of the buyers told us they'd never been approached that way before. that we might have a solution. Everybody else hit them over the head saying, you need to buy off us. We're incredible. I said, you have some incredible products already. We think ours measures up and possibly exceeds some of your current suppliers. Could we have a talk? But we didn't. I call it backpedaling while moving forward. So as an entrepreneur, how do we approach people that have a need that we can fulfill in a way that makes them go, huh? Several of the buyers for the majors told me that I was the only person that made them laugh with voicemail. So if you're Ian L. Gordon, pardon me, and you get 500 calls a week from suppliers you do not have time to investigate, how am I going to get through that? That's just emotional, physical, intellectual overload. So I didn't bother to try. If you're a major buyer, I know that you have advisors. So I did research for 90 days, and I found out that, for example, with one of the stores, which I won't name, he had 11 advisors. The former buyer, 1 generation and 2 generations ago. That's 2 of them. The current and the former safety officer, the current and the former marketing professional, current and the former sales promotion, the current and the former in-store signage people for that section of the store. Let's see, that's 9. And there was a couple others. Oh, VP for the particular line. Anyways, I had talked to, and they had all had samples, and they'd seen our research and our blind study from a lab saying what the quality of the food was, because it was a nutraceutical product. So it had far higher quality nutritional benefits than the average product in that category.
Right.
And so by the time I phoned the buyer, I had talked to 10 out of 11 advisors. They'd all had products, recipes. They'd taken it home. And so I said things to the buyers like, hey, it's Ballard. I missed you again. Don't call me back. You're too busy. I'll just keep dialing. And contrary to popular belief, I'm not stalking you. And I did things like call them Saturday mornings at 6 o'clock in the morning because I found out through my getting to know the advisors that that's when the senior VP came into his office on the first Saturday of the month to clean up his desk.
Oh, wow.
And so part of being resilient is your persistence. But I'm a big believer in that quote by W.C. Fields, the comedian from the 1930s. If at first you don't succeed, try, and try again, then give up. No use being a damn fool about it. So persistence, yes. Focus, yes. Have a mission, have your vision, be articulate about it all. But what is your process? What outcome do you want, and how are you going to get there? So I talk about, when I do my sales call program, I talk about, if you're going to be an entrepreneur, what's your sales process to large and small clients? Because you're not going to call on a ma and pa the same you are as a major grocery or a major chain. I used to work with major department stores. Yeah. Well, and drugstores. And on a couple occasions, I captured some franchises for major chains that wouldn't even talk to us for 20 years. They hated us. And I just started off by calling on the guy in shipping and receiving. From there, I went to the head cashier. From there, I went to the head merchandiser in the store. And by the time I went to the franchisee, they went, man, you've been calling on my people for 6 months and you didn't come to the front of the store or the back of the store. My store manager is on a first name basis with you. You didn't come to see me on the franchisee. So I didn't want to waste your time. I wanted to make sure that they believe in what we do our way to make you more money. Oh, your time's valuable. My time's valuable. So's theirs.
Michael, you have an unbelievable library of stories. I remember the first conversation we had over lunch. You are just a man with a wealth of experience. We're going to come right back to you after this message, and we're going to be heading into what I call our Fast and Furious round.
Okay.
Right after this. Together We Do Better is now available on Zune Radio, iTunes, and Stitcher Radio. Please rate and review. This episode is brought to you by FreeAudiobookClub.com. Pick one of your favorite books from over 150,000 titles, like Rich Dad, Poor Dad, The 4-Hour Workweek, Think and Grow Rich, and much more. FreeAudiobookClub.com. Visit us today. All right, Michael, we are back, and it's time for the Fast and Furious round.
Okay, bring it on.
So we're going to close out the show with about 3 questions. I want you to be very quick in your responses, all right?
Okay.
Now, what is that one daily task that has influenced your business the most?
A goals and task list and prioritize them.
Excellent. If you were left with just 3 books in your possession, which books would you keep?
Well, this is a business show, so I will go with business books. Mastery by George Leonard, because everything has a process. And if you can understand the process and help others understand it, it's easier to get things done more effectively.
Mm-hmm.
Smart for Life. It's a book about problem solving. And 6 Thinking Hats, which is a book about problem solving and creativity. 6 ways to think a problem through, 6 points of view. I think it's a brilliant book.
Yeah, that one sounds interesting. I might need to get that one in my possession.
Oh, well worth it. The man charged $35,000 a day in his prime and got it.
Now, last question. What is the one secret to your success?
A burning vision to help people be more resilient, having faced death 3 times.
Yeah.
I won't call it all consuming because I can goof off at the swimming pool for 4 hours with ease.
Let me tell you, I enjoyed the swimming pool in Orlando a few weeks ago.
Right.
But a burning vision is something that I think every entrepreneur should have. If it's not burning, if your why is not big enough, then you might need to think again.
It should wake you up at least a couple of mornings a month earlier than you wanted to get up.
Yeah.
And it should wake you up in the middle of the night once a month, not from worry, but just, wow,
Mm-hmm.
I got to do that.
Michael, this has been an incredible interview, incredible stories. Thank you so much for being a guest on my show.
Well, thank you very much again for having me, and I look forward to another time when we do the face-to-face, the old-fashioned way.
Exactly. Now, Michael, if people want to get in touch with you, find out more about your Resiliency for Life program, what is the best way for them to get in touch with you?
Probably they can find me a couple ways. The website, www.michaelhballard, BALLARD.com. And they can also find me on Google at Michael H. Ballard or YouTube at Michael H. Ballard. See a theme here? And Resilient Michael Noel on Twitter.
Excellent. Michael, thank you so much. You've been an awesome guest.
Well, thank you. Thanks, Ian.
This is Jason Reed, the Rechargeable Entrepreneur, and you're listening to Together We Do Better with Ian L. Gordon.
Now it's time to present the audiobook of the week. This week's audiobook is The Go-Giver, a little story about a powerful business idea by Bob Burg and John David Mann. The Go-Giver tells the story of an ambitious young man by the name of Joe who yearns success. Follow Joe's story as he is mentored by a legendary and enigmatic mentor who introduces him to a series of go-givers who teaches him how to open himself up to the power of giving. You can get a copy of The Go-Giver for free by visiting freeaudiobookclub.com. It was great having Michael on the show. Michael, thank you so much for your humor and your stories. Michael is a person who has lived the idea of being resilient. He has had to go through extreme challenges in his life. I can't wait to have him as a guest on the show again. He was a great interviewee. And Michael, thank you for all the work that you're doing in the world. You are helping so many people become resilient throughout life's challenges. Michael is one of those guys that you can call on for help, because when you're going through, you don't have to do it alone, because together we do better.
Thank you for listening to the Together We Do Better podcast. Remember to follow Ian on Twitter at Ian L. Gordon. Join his Facebook community at facebook.com/The Ian L. Gordon and visit togetherwedobetter.com.
Bye.